Imagine stepping out into this really vibrant, rain-washed garden.
Sounds pretty idyllic, honestly.
Right. It's the morning of your wedding day. Everything feels fresh and, heavy with anticipation. But then slithering right there through the damp grass, you spot this massive, completely black snake.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that kills the mood instantly.
Exactly. I mean, for most of us, that is a moment of just pure panic. But what if your culture tells you that this creature isn't just a reptile, but an actual deity?
That completely changes the dynamic.
It really does. And what happens when the arrogance of modern science decides to just bulldoze its way into that deeply rooted belief system?
Well, it usually doesn't end well.
No, it does not.
Hmm.
So welcome to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel. We're so glad you're here. If you enjoy this kind of in-depth exploration, please do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share your valuable comments down below. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, definitely let us know what you think.
So for today's deep dive, we have a really fascinating story lined up for you. It's going to challenge, well, basically everything you think you know about the line between pure logic, ancient folklore, and just the overwhelming weight of human grief.
It is such a powerful narrative. We're looking at a classic piece of literature by the legendary Hindi writer Munshi Premchand.
Yeah, from his Mansarovar collection, right?
Exactly. The story is called Nag-Puja, which translates to snake worship.
Mm.
And rather than just walking you through the plot point by plot point, we really need to examine the central collision Premchand sets up here.
Which is basically what happens when clinical, unfeeling reason tries to cure this profound, culturally ingrained trauma.
Right. Because, spoiler alert, it goes terribly wrong.
Oh, horribly wrong. But to really understand why this scientific approach is just doomed from the start, we have to look at the inciting incident.
The morning in the garden.
Yeah. Premchand opens the story on a morning in the month of Ashad. And the imagery he uses here is just incredible.
It really is.
He describes the world as looking like it has literally just been scrubbed clean with soap. Our protagonist, this young bride-to-be named Tilottama, she's playfully splashing water from the garden flowers onto her face.
But I think we need to contextualize that beautiful imagery a bit for the listener.
Go for it.
Because Ashad is the month that marks the onset of the monsoon season in the Indian subcontinent. So while it sounds idyllic, practically speaking, the monsoon means the ground is flooding.
Right. The water level is rising.
Exactly. It means burrows are filling with water, and suddenly human snake encounters are skyrocketing. The environment is inherently primed for danger, even if it looks washed and beautiful.
Which perfectly sets up that massive mood shift. Because Tilottama sees this massive black snake, a Nag, and her immediate instinctual reaction isn't to, run away screaming.
Which is what I would do.
Same. But she runs to her mother and says she wants to offer the snake milk. Okay, let's unpack this. Because this early moment establishes the entire psychological foundation of the whole story. Her mother insists that Tilottama must always worship this snake.
Always. It's not a suggestion.
Right. And the justification the mother uses is that she just had a dream about Nag Baba. And to her, this dream was comforting. Like it was a sign of divine presence protecting the house.
That dream sequence is absolutely vital. But the text provides a really sharp contrast there, right?
Oh, absolutely, because Tilottama also had a dream the night before.
And it was not comforting.
No, not at all. Their experiences are totally at odds. Tilottama's dream was a terrifying nightmare about a snake attack.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like they are staring at the exact same ink blot test, Yeah. The mother looks at the black snake and sees divine protection, but the daughter looks at it and sees impending doom.
It's fascinating.
It really makes you wonder if our expectations completely shape our reality in these moments of high stress.
That is definitely one way to look at it. But consider the broader cultural mechanism at play here, too.
What do you mean?
Well, why does the mother see a deadly, venomous creature as a blessing? It isn't just arbitrary optimism, right? This is how folklore often functions as a psychological coping mechanism.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
When ancient cultures faced an environment they couldn't control, like a sudden surge of deadly snakes during the monsoon, they deified the threat. If the snake is just a mindless killer, you are powerless.
You're just a victim of circumstance.
Exactly. But if the snake is Nag Baba, a deity, well, then you can offer it milk. You can pray to it. You can negotiate with it. The mother is basically using Nag-Puja to reclaim a sense of control over a terrifying reality.
That makes so much sense. She is trying to manage her own fear by turning the threat into a god. But the tragic part is she doesn't actually soothe Tilottama's very real logical fear.
Not at all.
Instead, the mother gives her this protective mantra to recite. So rather than saying, hey, it's just a snake, we'll keep it out of the house, she reinforces the heavy supernatural weight of the creature.
She validates the terror but wraps it in superstition.
Precisely. She sets a deeply superstitious, anxious tone right from the jump. She primes Tilottama to view everything that happens next, not as biology or chance, but as, like, divine intervention or spiritual punishment.
And the psychological stage is completely set for an absolute catastrophe.
And man, that catastrophe hits with brutal speed. The narrative shifts to the groom's procession, the barat.
The wedding party.
Yeah. This is supposed to be the festive, joyous arrival of the groom to take his bride. Everyone is waiting, music is supposed to be playing, but instead this chaotic news just spreads through the crowd.
The worst possible news.
The groom has been bitten by a black snake.
And Premchand intentionally makes the details of the strike really murky in the text.
Right, there are rumors.
Yeah, the text describes this chaotic spread of rumors. Some people say the snake was coiled up, hiding right under the cushion of his palanquin.
Terrifying.
Others swear the snake struck the absolute second he slid his foot into his shoe.
See, the how almost doesn't even matter because the result is just so visceral. Premchand's physical description of the groom is stark.
It's very clinical.
Yeah. His lips turn blue, his nails darken as the venom courses through him. And Premchand writes that the flickering lamp of his life is entirely extinguished. It is incredibly sudden.
It is the suddenness that drives the rest of the narrative, really.
Yeah.
We don't linger on the physical horror of the groom's body. Premchand immediately pivots to the mental and emotional impact on Tilottama.
And this psychological whiplash is where the story really grabbed me. Because just moments before the news of the bite arrived, the text gives us a glimpse into Tilottama's internal monologue.
And she wasn't happy.
No, she wasn't swooning over this guy at all. She was actually deeply annoyed about the wedding. She viewed the groom as a robber coming to steal her away from her childhood home and her freedom.
But then the news hits.
Right. The exact second she hears he is dying, he suddenly becomes unimaginably dear to her.
What's fascinating here is the metaphor Premchand uses to explain her state of mind. It's brilliant.
Oh, the boat metaphor.
Yes. He compares Tilottama to a passenger sitting on a slow, incredibly uncomfortable boat. The passenger is frustrated by the journey, annoyed by the rocking, just wishing they were anywhere else.
We've all been there.
But the second that boat hits a whirlpool and actually begins to sink, that exact same passenger desperately, fiercely clings to the mast for dear life.
It's so true. Have you ever been, like, incredibly frustrated by a situation, maybe a job or a relationship, only to have it suddenly violently ripped away?
Yeah.
And it leaves you with nothing but desperate regret.
It's a very common human reaction.
That is the human condition Premchand is tapping into here. Her annoyance evaporates, and all that remains is the absolute terror of the loss.
And we have to ask why her brain does this. When a trauma is that sudden, the mind scrambles to find meaning, you know?
It needs a narrative.
Exactly. If she admits she didn't really care for him, and then a snake randomly killed him, then the universe is just chaotic and cruel. But if she suddenly decides he was her soulmate, and his death was this profound, destined tragedy.
Then it makes sense.
Right. That is a narrative she can latch onto. It gives the pain a structure.
And that structure completely takes over her life. Because the tragedy doesn't end with the funeral. It festers. Tilottama completely renounces her youth.
She shuts down.
She spends the next 3 years dedicating her entire existence to Nag-Puja, worshipping the very snake entity that she believes took her husband.
If we connect this back to what we discussed earlier about folklore as a coping mechanism, her descent into snake worship is her way of managing her unresolved grief.
Right.
She couldn't control the snake that killed her groom, but by turning her life into an altar for the Nag, she is desperately trying to appease the chaos.
Yeah.
She is trapped in a cycle of ritualistic mourning.
But then 3 years later, that unresolved grief becomes a literal barrier. A new character enters the picture, and this is where the core thesis of the story really solidifies.
Professor Dayaram.
Enter the professor. He is a zoologist from Dhaka University. He is a man of science, someone who has literally spent his career studying the biological behavior of snakes. And he decides he wants to marry the widowed Tilottama.
But his motivation is entirely clinical.
Oh, yeah, it's not romantic at all.
He doesn't want to marry her out of some sweeping romantic rescue fantasy.
Yeah.
He views her situation, this house, completely paralyzed by the fear of a snake, as a scientific investigation. He wants to prove a point.
Wait, I have to push back on Dayaram here a little bit, because when I was reading the source material, I couldn't really tell. Is he genuinely that arrogant, or is he just, terrified of the cultural weight of the snake and overcompensating with this macho, my science will conquer all routine?
I think it's pure arrogance.
Because he boasts that even if the snake comes with 100 teeth, his modern medicines will protect him. He actually claims the snake will die just by biting him. That's wild.
It is pure, unadulterated hubris. Premchand writes him as the absolute embodiment of the arrogance of reason.
You really think he believes it?
Oh, absolutely. Dayaram isn't overcompensating out of fear. He genuinely believes that his academic knowledge makes him invincible. He reduces the entire situation to a simple equation of venom and anti-venom.
It's like a storm chaser driving a convertible straight into a massive tornado just to prove to the locals that his new experimental umbrella works.
That's a great analogy.
He is treating Tilottama less like a human being who has suffered a horrific, life-altering tragedy and more like a petri dish in a lab. He is completely underestimating the emotional and psychological storm that surrounds this woman.
Exactly, and his lack of empathy is his fatal flaw. The text notes that when the groom originally died, the materialists in the town were shocked by the bad luck, right? Well, the spiritualists nodded knowingly, seeing the inevitable hand of fate.
They saw it coming.
But Dayaram dismisses both camps. He thinks he can just walk into a home that has been marinated in trauma for 3 years, whip out a vial of anti-venom, and magically cure a deep spiritual wound.
He has biological knowledge, but zero understanding of the human heart.
None at all.
Which directly leads us into one of the most terrifying, claustrophobic climaxes I have read in a long time.
It really is intense.
Dayaram's rigid, scientific worldview is about to be pushed to its absolute breaking point.
And Premchand sets the scene so brilliantly. It is, once again, a heavy, rainy night. The atmosphere is thick with humidity and tension.
You can almost feel the air in the room.
Right. Dayaram decides to enter Tilottama's bedroom at midnight, and when he walks in, he sees it. A massive black snake is resting quietly right near her head.
And what does our brave, rational man of science do?
He runs.
He immediately backs out, he retreats to his own room, and chugs a dose of his anti-venom medicine, just in case. Then he arms himself.
With a gun?
He grabs a loaded pistol and a spear. He is preparing for, like, a physical gladiator-style combat with a reptile.
But when he finally musters the courage to return to the bedroom, the battle he finds isn't physical at all.
No, it's something else entirely.
He looks at the snake, and his rational mind starts trying to process the scene. He questions why the snake is acting so affectionate, so impossibly calm around Tilottama. And that is when his physiological breakdown really begins.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Dayaram is standing there, armed to the teeth, but suddenly his throat begins to constrict.
He can't breathe.
He starts gasping for air. He feels as though an invisible noose has been slipped tightly around his neck. He is suffocating in the middle of the room without the snake ever even touching him.
This raises an important question for us as readers, because Premchand deliberately blurs the line between reality and hallucination here.
He definitely does.
As Dayaram is choking, he looks over at Tilottama.
And she isn't just sleeping peacefully anymore.
Yeah.
She is hissing. Her arms are reaching out toward him, mimicking the exact feeling of the noose tightening around his neck. And then she speaks to him. But it's not the voice of a grieving widow.
It's completely different.
It is a terrifying, monstrous, booming voice. She looks right at him, this man of science, and calls him a fool for daring to challenge her.
It is an absolute masterclass in psychological horror. And it forces us to interpret what we are actually witnessing in that room.
Right, because what is actually happening?
This is a literal supernatural possession. Has the spirit of the Nag, the deity she has worshipped for 3 years, actually taken over Tilottama's body to protect her and punish this arrogant intruder?
I mean, that's the literal read, but I honestly lean toward a different reading. I think it is all in his head.
You think it's a hallucination?
Look at the variables. It is midnight. It is raining. The house has a terrifying history. He is already terrified enough to premedicate and bring a gun to a snake fight. I think this is a massive psychological hallucination experienced by Dayaram.
Pressure just got to him.
Exactly. The sheer density of the grief and the belief in that room simply breaks his rational mind. He projects his own repressed terror onto her.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the hallucination theory is incredibly profound. It shows that you cannot bring physical weapons, a pistol and a spear, to fight a manifestation of deep communal trauma.
You just can't.
Dayaram thought his enemy was a biological reptile. He didn't realize he was walking into a dense web of human suffering and cultural folklore that his science simply had no vocabulary for.
It is a full-blown panic attack. I mean, his throat constricting, the feeling of the noose, these are classic symptoms of severe panic. It is his body realizing that he is completely out of his depth.
The irony is so thick.
Right. The man who bragged that the snake would die from biting him is now literally choking on his own fear, defeated by just the atmosphere of the room.
And that is the ultimate defeat of his hubris. His data points, his university degree, his anti-venom, none of it mattered in the face of Tilottama's lived reality.
It was useless.
The story argues that logic has its limits when confronted with the overwhelming power of human emotion. You cannot simply medicate away a broken spirit or logically debate a terrified mind.
So what does this all mean for us? When we step back and look at Nag-Puja as a whole, Premchand isn't just writing a spooky story about a snake.
Not at all.
He is giving us a brilliant, tragic collision between the unfeeling rigidity of modern science and the unfathomable depths of human folklore. Dayaram brought a gun to fight a psychological demon, and he lost his mind in the process.
And it serves as a powerful reminder that knowledge is only valuable when it is applied with empathy and context.
Oh, well said.
Whether you, as the listener, choose to believe that the snake in that bedroom was a real supernatural threat or a powerful hallucination born from the friction of two opposing worldviews, the core truth remains intact.
Which is?
Some human experiences absolutely defy simple, rational explanations.
It leaves you with such a haunting final image, too. Tilottama, forever anchored to that rainy morning of her wedding, and Dayaram, completely stripped of all his intellectual armor, gasping for air.
It's a heavy image to shake.
It really is. Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with, something to mull over today after you finish listening.
Okay.
If trauma is left unhealed, if it is only worshipped and revered but never actually processed, does it eventually turn us into the very monsters we were so afraid of? Was the real snake in the room that night just the venom of unaddressed grief?
That is a chilling but really necessary question to consider.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive on the Simplified Summary channel.
We really appreciate it.
We hope this exploration of Premchand's Nag-Puja gave you a new perspective on the fragile boundary between what we can prove and what we simply feel. Again, please subscribe, like, and comment below with what you think happened in that bedroom. Until next time, keep exploring.